Marcus never expected his life to end up like this. One moment he was piloting the small reconnaissance ship above an unknown planet. The next he was crashing through its dense atmosphere, alarms blaring and lights flashing around him. The ship shook violently, throwing him against the controls, and the ground below loomed closer and closer until the impact knocked him unconscious. When he woke, he was sprawled among strange, glowing plants. The air was thick and humid, carrying an earthy smell that was both sweet and bitter. Above him, the sky was an unusual shade of green, streaked with colors he had never seen before. The ship was a wreck nearby, useless for any immediate escape. Marcus groaned, pulling himself up slowly. His body ached, but he was alive, and he knew that was the first victory. He glanced around and saw towering trees with luminescent leaves that pulsed like tiny lanterns. Strange creatures flitted through the branches, their bodies reflecting the light in bright flashes. Some were small, insect-like, while others had long, sinuous forms that moved gracefully through the air. Marcus felt awe mixed with caution. This planet was beautiful, but it was also dangerous. After taking stock of his supplies, he realized he had very little food and water. He needed shelter and fast. He began walking, hoping to find signs of civilization or at least a place to rest. Hours passed as he pushed through the thick undergrowth, his boots sinking into soft moss that seemed almost alive. Every sound made him jump: rustling leaves, distant calls, the occasional thud that might have been an animal or something much bigger. As night approached, the forest glowed even more. Bioluminescent plants lit his path, casting eerie shadows. Marcus paused, listening. He thought he heard voices in the distance, soft murmurs that seemed almost human. His heart raced. Could there be other survivors here? Or worse, aliens? He followed the sound cautiously, moving closer. As he emerged into a clearing, he saw it, a village, not like any human village he had seen. The buildings were made of a combination of living plants and shaped wood, glowing softly from within. They seemed to breathe with the forest itself, connected by vines and paths that twisted around the trees. Figures moved among the structures, humanoid but with features slightly different from humans, skin with faint patterns, eyes larger and brighter, hair in natural hues that seemed to shimmer in the light. Marcus froze. He had never seen anything like this. The beings looked at him curiously, and he felt their eyes on him as he stepped forward. One of them, a young woman, separated from the others and walked toward him. Her movements were calm but confident, and her eyes, large and golden, studied him carefully. "I haven't seen a man in 7 months," she said, her voice melodic but firm. Marcus blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. You can speak English?" he asked, his voice hoarse. The woman shook her head slightly, smiling faintly. "No, but I understand. Come." "Eat," she gestured to the village. There was no hostility in her movements, only curiosity and caution. Marcus realized she was offering him help. He nodded slowly, trying not to show his fear. As he followed her, he noticed how the village seemed alive. Some buildings pulsed softly, others had vines that moved as if breathing. Small creatures ran along the paths, tending to the village in ways he could not yet understand. He felt a strange sense of awe. This was not just survival, it was harmony. The woman, whose name he would later learn was Lyra, led him to a small hut woven from glowing vines. Inside, the walls pulsed gently, and the air was warm and fragrant. A shallow bowl of liquid and some small fruits sat on a table made of woven branches. Marcus approached carefully, unsure if he should eat. Lyra watched him quietly, her expression calm. He took a sip of the liquid. It was sweet and slightly tangy. The fruits were juicy and refreshing, unlike anything he had tasted before. As he ate, he realized how exhausted he was. His muscles ached, and his mind raced with questions about where he was, how he had survived the crash, and what this world really was. After a few moments, he looked at Lyra. "Why help me?" he asked. She tilted her head, her golden eyes studying him. Because you are not a threat. You are lost. I have not seen another like you in a long time. Marcus nodded slowly. He felt a strange bond forming with this alien woman, even though he barely knew her. He realized that survival would not be easy here. The planet was beautiful, but it was also unpredictable. He would need her knowledge to understand the village, the forest, and the creatures that roamed it. The night deepened, and Marcus listened to the sounds of the village. The villagers moved quietly among their homes, their voices low and melodic, carrying over the soft glow of their buildings. He noticed small children playing near the glowing plants, their laughter ringing through the air. It was a world unlike any he had known, harsh yet alive, dangerous yet mesmerizing. Lyra sat across from him, watching him carefully. "You are far from your home," she said. Marcus nodded. "Yes, very far. I don't even know if anyone will find me." She reached out and placed a hand on his arm, a gesture of reassurance. "Then stay here tonight. Learn, survive. Tomorrow we will see what can be done." Her touch was gentle but firm, giving him a strange sense of comfort in this alien world. Marcus felt a mix of relief and awe. He was a stranger on this planet, far from the human world he knew, yet he felt that maybe, just maybe, he could survive here. With Lyra's guidance, he might even thrive. As he lay down on the soft, glowing mat that served as a bed, he realized that he was not entirely alone. He had found someone who understood him, someone who could guide him through this strange world. And for the first time since the crash, Marcus allowed himself to hope. Outside, the forest glowed under the alien sky, and somewhere deep in the village, life continued, vivid, strange, and beautiful. Marcus closed his eyes, ready for whatever the next day might bring, knowing that he had already taken the first step towards survival, and perhaps something more. The morning light filtered through the glowing walls of the hut, casting soft patterns across Marcus's face. He stretched and stood, his body still sore from the crash and the long trek through the forest. Lyra was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the floor, her golden eyes watching him carefully. She smiled faintly as he blinked at her, still adjusting to the alien light. "Are you ready?" she asked. Marcus nodded, swallowing hard. He did not yet know what ready meant on this planet, but he trusted her. They stepped outside together, and Marcus felt a wave of wonder wash over him. The village was alive in the daylight. Plants swayed gently, responding to the breeze in strange patterns, and small creatures moved along the paths, tending to the village as if it were a single living organism. Villagers went about their morning routines, speaking in melodic tones Marcus could not understand. Lyra led him to a small clearing where a group of villagers were gathering. They stopped and stared at Marcus for a moment, curiosity in their eyes. Lyra introduced him to each one with gestures and soft sounds, which he tried to mimic awkwardly. The villagers seemed to appreciate his effort, nodding and smiling in return. Marcus realized that communication here relied heavily on gestures, expressions, and tones rather than words. The first lesson was survival. Lyra guided Marcus through the forest, pointing out edible plants, warning him of dangerous ones, and showing him how to read subtle changes in the environment. "The forest speaks," she said simply. Marcus tried to understand, noticing how the leaves trembled slightly before a predator moved nearby, or how certain flowers closed when something approached. It was unlike anything he had learned on Earth. Hours passed as they trained. Marcus struggled at first, tripping over roots and nearly touching dangerous plants, but Lyra's calm guidance helped him improve. By midday, he could move through the forest more confidently, sensing small shifts in the wind and noticing creatures hiding among the trees. He felt a new respect for this world and the beings who had adapted to it. During a rest, Marcus asked Lyra about the village. "How did you all come here?" he asked. She looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "This place has always been. Our people came long ago from other worlds. We live in harmony with the forest. We take only what we need. You do not belong, yet you survive." Her voice was gentle but firm, as if acknowledging both his fragility and his strength. As they spoke, Marcus noticed a shadow moving quickly in the trees. He tensed, ready to react, but Lyra calmly raised a hand. A small predator, its body sleek and dark with glowing eyes, appeared at the edge of the clearing. It was curious but cautious. Marcus froze, unsure what to do. Lyra stepped forward slowly, showing no fear. The creature sniffed the air, then retreated, leaving Marcus in awe. She had an instinct he could not match. "You see," she said, smiling faintly. "Respect patience. The forest is alive. It listens." Marcus nodded, realizing that his human instincts, fast reactions, weapons, technology, were useful but not enough here. He would need to combine them with understanding and patience. Over the next days, Marcus learned more than he had ever imagined. He helped the villagers gather resources, constructing simple shelters and learning to use the forest's natural energy. Some plants produced light or healed minor wounds, while others could be shaped into tools. Marcus marveled at how Lyra and her people had turned the forest into a home without destroying it. One afternoon, while exploring near the outskirts of the village, Marcus stumbled upon a strange plant, unlike any he had seen. It was large, with thick, twisting vines and bright red flowers that seemed to pulse with energy. He reached out, curious, and a vine lashed out, narrowly missing his hand. Lyra appeared beside him instantly, her movements fluid and confident. "Danger," she said simply, guiding him away. She explained that the plant was invasive, growing faster than it should, threatening to overtake other parts of the forest. Marcus realized that even in this harmonious world, danger could come not just from creatures, but from nature itself. Together, they returned to the village and gathered the elders. Using gestures and Marcus's attempts at communication, they discussed possible ways to control the invasive plants. Marcus proposed combining human ingenuity with tribal methods, building barriers, using controlled fire, and reinforcing natural defenses. The elders listened carefully, intrigued by his ideas. Lyra translated his gestures and explanations with patience and precision. Days turned into weeks, and Marcus began to feel a part of the village. He learned the rhythms of the forest, how to anticipate weather changes, and how to track creatures without startling them. He began teaching simple human tools, pulley systems, traps for invasive plants, and ways to store food efficiently. The villagers were quick learners, blending his ideas with their natural methods. During this time, Marcus and Lyra's bond deepened. They shared moments of quiet conversation, laughter, and discovery. Marcus admired Lyra's bravery and intelligence. She admired his ingenuity and determination. They understood each other without needing many words. Marcus realized that in this strange world, trust and respect were more important than speech. One day, while scouting the forest for invasive plants, Marcus and Lyra encountered a pack of predators. They were larger than the one Marcus had seen before, with sleek bodies and glowing eyes. Marcus's first instinct was to run, but Lyra stopped him. "No fear," she whispered. She led him through a series of maneuvers, moving silently and using the forest to their advantage. The predators circled, curious but cautious. Using traps and tactics, they managed to drive the predators away without harming them. Marcus felt a surge of pride. He had survived, learned, and grown stronger. That evening, as they returned to the village, the elders praised Marcus. Lyra smiled at him, her golden eyes reflecting the glowing lights of the village. Marcus felt a warmth he had never experienced before. He was far from home, but he had found a place where he could make a difference, where his knowledge and courage mattered. But the invasive plants were still growing, spreading faster than they could manage. Marcus realized that the challenge was not just survival, it was protection. He would need to plan carefully, combining human logic with tribal knowledge to save the village and the forest. It was a daunting task, but he felt ready. With Lyra by his side, he knew they could face anything. As the night fell, Marcus lay on the glowing mat, listening to the soft hum of the village. The forest whispered around him, alive with light and movement. He thought of his home, of the people he had left behind, and of the strange twist of fate that had brought him here. He was lost, yet he was also found, in a world that challenged him, taught him, and inspired him. Tomorrow, he would begin the work of protecting this place. He would combine human ingenuity with the wisdom of the villagers. And in doing so, he would show that even in the farthest corners of the universe, humans could survive, adapt, and thrive. For the first time since the crash, Marcus felt hope that went beyond survival. He felt purpose, and with Lyra watching over him, he knew he was not alone. The forest was alive, the village was alive, and somehow in this alien world, he was beginning to feel alive too. The sun rose over the alien forest, casting soft green light across the village. Marcus stood beside Lyra at the edge of the clearing, staring at the spreading invasive plants. They had grown taller and thicker overnight, twisting through the forest like living walls, and Marcus realized that if they were not stopped soon, the village could be lost. He clenched his fists, determination rising within him. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "We can stop it," she said quietly. Marcus nodded, grateful for her confidence. Together, they went to the elders who had gathered to discuss the threat. Using gestures, Marcus explained his plan. They would combine human engineering with tribal techniques, building barriers with strong vines, using controlled fires in safe areas to slow the growth, and reinforcing the village with natural repellents from the forest. The elders listened carefully, nodding and whispering to one another. One of them approached Marcus, placing a hand over his heart, a gesture of trust and agreement. Marcus felt a surge of pride. He was far from home, surrounded by beings unlike any he had ever seen, and yet they were willing to work together with him to save their world. Over the next hours, the village came alive with action. Marcus coordinated with the villagers, showing them how to build structures from vines that could withstand the pressure of the invasive plants. Lyra guided him, translating his instructions and demonstrating how to weave the materials into strong barriers. Marcus marveled at how quickly the villagers adapted, using their natural skills to implement his ideas. As the barriers went up, Marcus noticed that the invasive plants were not passive. They seemed almost aware of the work, shifting slightly as if sensing resistance. Some vines lashed out at the structures, while bright red flowers pulsed aggressively. Marcus realized that they would need to combine force with strategy. He and Lyra gathered small groups of villagers, teaching them how to control the plants without destroying the ecosystem. Controlled fires were lit in the safest areas, carefully guided to prevent damage to the village. The smoke and heat slowed the growth of the invasive plants, allowing the barriers to hold. Marcus worked tirelessly, moving among the villagers, adjusting strategies, and learning more about the forest with each passing moment. He could feel the pulse of the world around him, the subtle shifts in wind, the quiet whispers of plants, the movement of creatures observing from the shadows. Hours passed, and the sun began to set. The village was safe for now, but the threat was not gone. Marcus and Lyra decided to venture further into the forest to find the source of the invasive plants. The deeper they went, the more twisted and chaotic the vegetation became. Trees were tangled with vines, flowers pulsed violently, and the air felt thick with energy. Marcus realized that this was the heart of the invasion, and that controlling it would require all their skill and courage. They approached a clearing where the largest cluster of invasive plants grew. The vines were enormous, their tips glowing red, moving almost like they had minds of their own. Marcus studied them carefully, recalling everything he had learned about the forest and its rhythms. Lyra moved beside him, calm and confident, her hands tracing gestures that seemed to communicate with the plants. Marcus realized that her connection with the forest was deeper than he had imagined. He took a deep breath and activated a small device he had crafted with materials from the village. It emitted a soft pulse that disrupted the invasive plants' growth patterns without harming other life. The vines recoiled slightly, then continued to shift, but Marcus adjusted the device, combining it with techniques Lyra had shown him, tapping certain vines, applying natural repellents, and guiding the energy of the forest itself. For hours, they worked together. Lyra's instinct and knowledge, combined with Marcus's ingenuity and determination, created a harmony that gradually slowed the invasive plants. Sweat dripped down Marcus's face, but he did not stop. He could feel the forest responding, the energy of the living world shifting in their favor. Finally, with one last adjustment, the largest cluster of vines stopped moving aggressively, curling back into the soil. The threat had been controlled. When they returned to the village, the people cheered. Marcus felt a rush of pride as the elders approached him, placing hands on his shoulders and chest, a sign of respect and gratitude. Lyra smiled, her golden eyes reflecting the glowing lights of the village. Marcus realized that he had earned the trust and admiration of beings from another world, not through force, but through intelligence, courage, and collaboration. That night, the village held a celebration. Lantern-like plants glowed brightly, and the villagers sang melodies that Marcus could not understand but felt deeply. He watched Lyra dancing among her people, her movements graceful and full of life. He felt a connection not just to her, but to the entire world around him. Humans were far from home, but he had proven that even in the most alien environments, they could adapt, help, and thrive. As the celebration continued, Marcus spoke quietly with Lyra. "I never thought I could make a difference here," he admitted. "I just wanted to survive." She shook her head gently. "You did more than survive, you helped us. You showed us that humans can think, create, and act with courage. You belong here if you choose." Marcus felt a warmth in his chest. He had never expected to find purpose so far from Earth. He had faced danger, learned an entirely new way of life, and proven that human ingenuity and bravery could matter, even on a world unlike his own. He realized that survival alone was not enough. Making a difference, protecting others, and earning trust was what truly defined him. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding and teaching. Marcus shared more knowledge with the villagers, simple tools, storage methods, ways to improve their shelters. Lyra continued to guide him, showing him secrets of the forest, how to move silently, and how to communicate with creatures. Together, they created a stronger, safer village, blending human ingenuity with tribal wisdom. Marcus knew that eventually he might have to return to Earth to report what he had seen. But he also knew that he would leave a mark on this world, just as the villagers had left a mark on him. He felt pride in humanity, not just his own, but the potential for humans to bring intelligence, creativity, and courage wherever they went. One morning, as Marcus prepared to explore further with Lyra, the elders approached him. They placed gifts in his hands, tools, woven items, and small glowing stones. It was their way of honoring him and ensuring that he would remember them. Marcus accepted them with gratitude, realizing that he had formed bonds that would last a lifetime, even if he returned to his own world. Lyra stood beside him, her hand brushing against his arm. "The forest will always remember you," she said softly. Marcus smiled, feeling a deep sense of belonging. "And I will never forget this place or you." As they walked toward the edge of the forest, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. The planet was alive, strange, and beautiful, but he was no longer an outsider. He had survived, adapted, and helped. He had faced dangers, learned from them, and grown stronger. And most importantly, he had proven that humans, with their courage and intelligence, could thrive even in the most alien worlds. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the glowing forest. Marcus looked at Lyra, at the village, at the living world around him, and felt hope, not just for survival but for the future. He had found a place where he could make a difference, where his presence mattered, and where humans could truly shine. In the quiet of the night, the village pulsed with life. Marcus lay on the glowing mat, listening to the soft hum of the forest, feeling the heartbeat of the world beneath him. He was far from home, but he was alive, he was respected, and he had found purpose. Humanity, he realized, could overcome any challenge, adapt to any world, and leave a mark wherever it went. And as he closed his eyes, Marcus knew that this was only the beginning of his journey, a journey where courage, intelligence, and heart would always guide him, even in the most alien and extraordinary places.